What's up, YouTube? I'm here to do my prediction video for UFC 226. Let's start at the bottom. The first fight is Jamie Moyla versus Emily Whitmire. And to me, these two chicks are pretty similar. I just think Jamie Moyla is a little bit better. I think Emily Whitmire, I don't want to knock her, but it seems like she kind of gives up a little bit if the fight's not going her way. I think Jamie Moyla can continuously pressure her, and I think eventually Jamie Moyla is going to win by finish, probably in the first or second round. Next, we got Dan Hooker versus Gilbert Burns, and I really think Dan Hooker probably should win this fight. He's looked really amazing. He's been getting better and better with every fight. His striking and jiu-jitsu both look really good. But my biggest fear is he gives up a lot of takedowns, and I feel like if Gilbert Burns can get this guy to the ground, he'll probably win by submission. I think Gilbert, like I said, if it's on the feet, I think he has power in it, but Dan's the better striker overall. But I think Gilbert will get this fight to the ground sooner or later, and that's my biggest fear is if he does get this to the ground, I think he's going to be able to mount him and win by like rear naked choke or armbar. And that's just what I see happening. I think Gilbert will eventually get this fight to the ground and win by like I said, rear naked choke or armbar. His jiu-jitsu is just way too good for Dan Hooker. Next we got Curtis Millender versus Max Griffin, and these two guys look very similar. They're both kind of strikers. I think Max Griffin has the edge in wrestling, but I'm leaning towards Curtis in this one. I just think he has too huge of a reach advantage. I don't think Max has the striking level to get through that reach. And I think Curtis will be able to stuff the takedowns and just outstrike him from the distance. And I don't know if Curtis will win by knockout. He's kind of like half and half with his knockouts. But I do think Curtis will be able to keep Max on the outside and just pick him apart for 3 rounds and win the 30-27 decision. Next is Lando Vannata versus Drakkar Klose. And I feel like Drakkar has the style that can upset a lot of people, but I just feel like Lando's the better guy overall. I think his striking jiu-jitsu are better than Drakkar's, basically just his wrestling. I think Drakkar also has very good striking, but he mixes it with his wrestling a lot. And I think Vannata, as long as he can keep it at distance, he should be able to win this fight by knockout sooner or later. And that's what I see happening. I think Vannata keeps it at like karate distance and eventually lands like something crazy. And I say he wins by probably first round knockout. Next we got Raphael Assunção versus Rob Font. And I feel like Rob Font's probably the better striker overall technically, but I think Assunção just has way more ways to win. I think that Assunção's wrestling and jiu-jitsu are better. I also think that his striking can keep up with Rob's, and I don't think he has the power or the speed, but I feel like when you mix all that shit together, you can offset somebody's game, and I think that's what's going to happen. I think Assunção is going to do enough to offset Rob, and I think he's either going to just slightly outstrike him / like take him down here and there to get a decision, or eventually he'll get Rob to the ground and win by submission. But realistically, I think Assunção is just going to outpoint him for 3 rounds and just win by 30-27 decision. Next, we got Uriah Hall versus Paulo Costa, and my biggest fear with Paulo Costa is we've never seen him go past like the first round in the UFC, and I think that that's a big factor. I think that the longer this fight goes, the better chance Uriah has. I feel like we've never really seen Uriah gas. He just kind of gets caught in shit, or he gets out-wrestled kind of. But I think his conditioning's always been really solid, and I think his overall striking technique has been really solid. And I don't think Costa's just going to be able to bull rush him like he's done to a lot of guys. I think Uriah Hall can keep the distance. He's got a huge advantage with both his arm reach and his leg reach. I think Uriah Hall should be able to keep Costa at a distance and either just win a decision or get a late 3rd round knockout. I think that, even though Uriah Hall has been kind of on a downswing, he just won his last fight even though it was a comeback. I think that, like I said, I think stylistically they're both strikers, and just the way Uriah strikes should give him a huge advantage. And I think Uriah Hall is probably going to win by decision. Next is Gokhan Sakai versus Khalil Rountree. And this is one of those weird things where it's like, Gokhan's clearly the better striker, and he's probably got better conditioning. So the longer this goes, he should be able to win. But, Gokhan's lost to some guys in kickboxing who aren't that great. And it's because they have, like, a style that Khalil has where it's like, and it's not just Gokhan. Like, sometimes really great kickboxers lose to mediocre strikers just because they have one good thing going for them, and that's like Anthony Rumble Johnson style, where for like a round or two, they're the best strikers in the world, and that's kind of what Khalil is. Like, for the first round, he's like Rumble Johnson, not as good, but you know what I mean? He's got that style where it's like he can close the distance, he throws huge strikes, and they're really fast, and like he'll gas, and then you can kick his ass for the next 2 rounds, but that first round, he's probably one of the best strikers in the world. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think Gokhan will be weary of that first round. And I do think this fight's going to be straight up kickboxing the whole fight. And I think that Gokhan will get out of the first, and I think in the second we're going to see him start to pick it up. And I think Gokhan's going to get like a mid-second round knockout. Next we got Michael Chiesa versus Anthony Pettis. And to me, if this fight's standing, Pettis should win all day. But I feel like Chiesa's going to mix it up, and I think Chiesa will get it to the ground. I think that, I don't know if Chiesa will submit him, but I think Chiesa's got the type of wrestling / jiu-jitsu where he should be able to get this fight to the ground repetitively and just beat up Pettis. We've seen Pettis can't stuff takedowns very well, and I also feel like we've seen him slowly decline more and more. I think that Chiesa, has been looking great. Other than that Kevin Lee fight where I thought it was stopped way too early, he didn't tap. But either way, I think Chiesa will be able to get this fight to the ground repetitively, and I don't know if he'll submit him, but like I said, I think he should be able to grind out a 30-27 decision. Next is Paul Felder versus Mike Perry. And to me, this fight is super close. I think that the only reason it's super close is because of the, the size. I mean, Paul Felder's a lightweight fighting at welterweight just because his opponent got switched, and Mike Perry, vice versa, somebody got injured. So Paul Felder moved up, and, it's two really good strikers, but I feel like Paul Felder has the type of striking where he should be able to keep this at distance and just pick them apart and win by points. Like Mike Perry, he could win by knockout or TKO if he's able to close that distance, but we've seen in past fights, Mike Perry has a really hard time closing that distance, and I think because of that, Paul Felder is just going to win by decision. I think he keeps striking from the outside and just circles around him for 3 straight rounds. Next, we got the co-main event, Francis Ngannou versus Derek Lewis, and if you watched my last video, Max Holloway got sick or something like that, and he had to pull out, which really sucks because that was the fight I was looking forward to the most. The card's still really, really good, and this is a good main event. This would be a regular pay-per-view event. I'm just really sad because I wanted to see Max Holloway fight, but Derek Lewis versus Francis Ngannou is a really interesting fight for the sole fact that I think the grappling advantage is in Derek Lewis's favor. I also think conditioning advantage in Derek Lewis's favor. My biggest fear is Derek Lewis keeps his hands really low when he fights, and that's something that can hurt him the longer this fight goes. And I think that for Derek, he needs to just keep his hands up and fight really close. I think Francis Ngannou's biggest strength are those long punches. He throws long uppercuts and long straight right hands and stuff like that. I think the closer Derek Lewis is to Francis, the better. I think Derek Lewis is better at generating power at shorter distances. It's just one of those things. I don't know how athletic Derek Lewis is because he has to be able to close that distance and keep it really close, in my opinion. If possible, he should take it to the ground. I think his grappling is a lot better than Francis Ngannou's is. I think that, like I said, the longer this goes, the better it is for Derek Lewis. It's super tough because I feel like there's a strong chance it's going to end in the first round. But if it goes past the first round, I think Derek Lewis can win. And that's what I think is going to happen. I think that Derek Lewis is going to be able to keep close to him and eventually get it to the second round. And I think if Derek Lewis gets it to the second, he wins by knockout. Next is Stipe Miocic versus Daniel Cormier. And this one's super tough just because Daniel Cormier, he's never lost to anyone not named John Jones. And I think that Stipe should have the advantage just because he's much bigger. I mean, Daniel's fought bigger guys his entire career, and he's beat most of them, but I don't know how many of them have had the size, the wrestling, and the striking that Stipe's had. I mean, overall, Daniel's probably the better striker, but I think Stipe, like I said, I think the size does matter. I think that with Daniel's better wrestling, he'll be able to keep him against the fence and shit like that, but I don't know if he'll be able to hold him there. I also don't know how often he'll be able to take him down. Like I said, he's the better wrestler, but I don't think it's that big in MMA. I think it's going to be striking for the most part, and I think Stipe's size is going to help him. I think his conditioning is also a little bit better, and I just think his punches are going to do more damage. They have similar styles, but the longer it goes, I think the more Stipe is going to do more damage, and I think eventually we're going to see that add up come the 4th or 5th round, and that's what I think is going to happen. I think come the 4th round, we're going to see Stipe just win by knockout or TKO, and that's what I have it. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe.